Good morning, everyone. This is Mondays with Vish. Vish missed last week, came in on Friday. Now he's back on Mondays because finals are over. The
Yep.
Niners season is kind of over too, but we still have a lot to talk about. Just because they're done competing doesn't mean the conversation ends. Vish, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So let's start with your thoughts on this game, since we usually spend most of the time talking about the game that just happened. This game is kind of a footnote on, and we're going to be looking forward the most of the time today. But let's start with the game. What stuck out to you about that, the latest Niners loss?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of more of the same types of issues that we've seen all season, just get exacerbated times two because it was such a must-win game against a team that frankly is not very good. The defense once again played out of their mind. I mean, for Robert Saleh, to give him credit, like if there's one thing that should be put on his coaching resume, however bad Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith were in that game, the last three drives for him to go three straight 3-and-outs without Fred Warner on the field, that was a coaching clinic. That was phenomenal. They kept putting the offense back in position. I mean, Nick Mullins, it's the same conversation we've talked about. Like, I don't think he played terrible. Like, he had a bad game in terms of his stats, but he played similar. I just felt that the turnovers were the big problem, and he's been kind of turning over the ball. But otherwise, it was just a rough game. It once again highlighted the importance of Deebo Samuel. I think it would have truly been a different game on offense if Deebo Samuel was there to be able to win the edges and run the ball that way. But it's overall, it's just a lot of issues confounded into one big issue that we'll talk about throughout this show. And that's the fact that the Niners, it's something we brought up when they blew the Miami game, and everybody thought the season was over then. It's the fact that they tried to rebuild something that didn't work last year the same exact way. And they didn't address issues that were there last year because they thought they could cover them up the same exact way they did last year. And, last year had a bunch of details, a bunch of my favorite word, nuance, that didn't happen this year. And that's why they are in the position they're in. Because, we're going to get into it, right?
We're going to get into it.
We're going to talk about injuries and all those things that were totally out of their control. But there were a few things that were in their control this season that they screwed the pooch on.
And we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to stick with the game. And you said something really interesting about Deebo. Let's talk about Deebo. And then James Foster has a question about Jimmy G potentially taking a pay cut. James, we're going to get to you next. And then we're going to dive into what we basically have set out. But what I want to say about Deebo is he's so important to this offense. It's like when he's healthy, you were right. I mean, when he's healthy, not only does he make life easy on the quarterback in all the obvious ways, but he makes life easy on the offensive line. Yep. They don't have to block. The ball is instantly thrown out to the perimeter, and the blockers are the wide receivers, the tight ends. Maybe a tackle has to get out there and lead the way, but that's it. So when Deebo went down, all of a sudden it's like, well, now you guys have to play like conventional football, and you don't have the quarterbacks, the offensive line, either one to pull it off. Deebo's that important. And so what I'll say is when he went down in the first play of the game, it was like, well, they're screwed. But also, can they count on Deebo Samuel moving forward? He's important, but he's had these issues going back to college. Going into the offseason, do we just get him healthy, or do we hedge our bets here in some way?
So that's the real question, right? So for me, going back, like, he protects everybody, even the running backs. Like, this is not, they don't have a Dalvin Cook where if you block a play for 2 yards and you're running in between the tackles, he's going to get 7. They don't have that kind of running back. Everything is built around the fact that Deebo Samuel in motion creates fear. Deebo Samuel with the ball in the perimeter wins the edge. Deebo Samuel sets a physical tone to the game with the way he plays. So everything's built around that. And it's kind of the D Ford situation, right? Because the pass rush, like, everybody thinks it's so easy to move off of D Ford. Well, guess what? If we were to rank the 10 best players when healthy on the 49ers tomorrow, D Ford still makes that list. He's one of the 10 best players on this team when he's healthy.
He's just not healthy.
Right. And so they can move off of him and stuff, but then there'll be a point where they need him and they don't have a D Ford replacement. So then do they have to spend draft capital maybe to draft a guy like Darius Toney on Florida who's similar to Deebo, and so that you have a Deebo replacement the way the Chiefs have with Mecole Hardman just kind of waiting in the wings with Tyreek Hill? Well, that's the $1 million question. I think you can maybe give Deebo one more year, the thing that bothers me with Deebo is the reason Deebo Samuel went in the second round is because Deebo Samuel had hamstring problems in college, and that's 2 hamstring injuries this year. Hamstring is a very, very touchy area of the body. Who knows if that's just going to keep getting hurt for Deebo. I don't want to write him off in terms of injuries. I want to give him 1 more year. But I think that it's definitely something that you have to look into because it's a real problem.
Real quick, before we move off Deebo, it's an interesting topic to me because to me, by about, I want to say midway through last season, the offense was kind of built around him. Mm-hmm. And really, he became the catalyst. As you pointed out, the MVP and everything was about getting the ball in his hands and letting him be a playmaker.
Right.
Can you build an offense around Deebo Samuel? When he's healthy, the answer is hell yes. You can build a championship offense around him. But is he durable enough? Because if he all of a sudden, if you can't count on Deebo Samuel, now the whole offense that you built around him doesn't work. And you got to go back to playing conventional football, which your offensive line and quarterback can't really pull off. So that's what I'm saying.
So you've thrown out the comparison for Deebo, right? Percy Harvin,
same thing.
The Vikings did it for 6 games with Percy Harvin. It was one of the early years when he was 2012 MVP candidate.
They beat the Niners.
Yeah, first 6 games of the season, MVP candidate, and then Percy.
He made Christian Ponder look good.
Right, and then he got hurt.
Yes.
So that's going to be the question. Maybe I think if you get a better quarterback in, then maybe you're a little less reliant on Deebo Samuel. But then at the end of the day, this run game, like with Mostert, Wilson, and the way these offensive linemen are, these smaller, quicker offensive linemen in space, like you need Deebo Samuel to be an integral part of the run game. And Kyle Shanahan talked, even in his presser, he said, I'm always trying to run the ball. Well, if you're always trying to run the ball, you got to run the ball starting with Deebo Samuel to build your entire run game. So it's kind of
and he did that. He did that again this past game. So it's like, oh, good call. So all I'm saying is it's interesting. It's kind of on Deebo now. If you have a hamstring issue, then maybe you need to lose 5 pounds or 10 or something. Maybe you need to warm up better. There is something about your process that's not ideal. Fix it. Or you're going to really keep hurting this team because it's built around you. You mask all their weaknesses. Yeah. All right. Should we move on?
Sure. Let's do it.
James Foster says, does Jimmy G seem like the type of guy that would take a pay cut? Doesn't he know he won't get more than $25 million anywhere else? This is a very interesting question. Vish, what do you think?
It's a great question. So here's my thing. First, I never advocate for athletes to take a pay cut. I know they make 10x more than I'm ever going to make in my life, but they sign contracts that owners and teams are never they never show the same obligation to the contract that the athlete should show. So the athlete should have their own rigidness about getting the money that they're not, because their earning potential is 10 to 15 years if they're lucky. It's not like they can work for 50 years doing this job. So I wouldn't advocate that. And 2, if you're Jimmy, why would you take the pay cut to play for the 49ers? We've constantly talked about ad nauseum. Grant and I have beat this topic to death. Oh, the Niners shouldn't want Jimmy G. Why should Jimmy G want the 49ers? What have they provided him that him taking $12 million here is better than him taking $12 million with another team that wants him to be their backup quarterback, wants him to maybe be their starting quarterback.
Gives him an offensive line.
Right. Forget even without the offensive line, he's been basically everybody's punching bag here. Like, he's been other teams' punching bags occasionally, but everybody here, everybody wants. If the Niners lose, it's because of Jimmy G. Even when we lose games and he doesn't even play in them, see, Jimmy, you can't stay healthy. That's why we're losing, right? So he's been taking this constant beating. Like, it's got to wear on him at some point. I mean, we talked about how I thought that the NFC Championship game was really what just ruined him. That 8 passes, the media beating before the Super Bowl. But then after that, he played bad in the Super Bowl, and he took another 6 months of an even worse media beating after the Super Bowl. Why would he want to take a pay cut for the 49ers? Why?
No, I don't think he would. I mean, the way I read the system and this season, and I could be wrong, is he was freaked out week 1. He had been playing without his knee brace in camp. He was talking about that it was a security blanket. He didn't need it as much anymore. And then, boom, week 1, Hronis Grasu starting at center. It's back on, and he looked freaked all game.
Wait, do you remember what happened The realization that Ben Garland wasn't going to play, he was ruled out on Thursday, and Friday practice, Jimmy's knee brace was back.
Boom. So, I mean, just starting right there, and like they never really set him up, and he was a little freaked out from the get-go. The season was messed up from the get-go. Yeah.
I mean, he was seeing ghosts week 1 versus Arizona. Like,
that's right.
He was struggling inside the pocket. Like, the pocket presence with all these quarterbacks, we've also talked about this ad nauseum. It's terrible.
That's right.
And Jimmy's pocket presence was actually not that bad in 2019. But game 1 of 2020, Jimmy's not injured. The offensive line actually wasn't just getting whipped versus Arizona. They played a solid game. But he was seeing phantom pressure constantly because he was not sure of Hornets Grasu, Daniel Brunskill, and I guess he maybe saw Mike McGlinchey in camp and wasn't sure of him.
But I think one issue also is that none of these Niner quarterbacks either are taught or feel comfortable stepping up in the pocket. And maybe it's because they don't trust the interior of the offensive line. But Jimmy, week 1, kept trying to back out of the pocket. Would go left, he'd go right. Like, no, dude, you need to step up. That's what you're not athletic enough to run out of the back of the pocket like Kyler or Patrick Mahomes. You're supposed to do what Brady does and step up. And these guys, hard to step up when you got Tom Compton getting pushed into you or Daniel Brunskill getting pushed into you. So you hang back, and then Mike McGlinchey gets you beat. I mean, what are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah. So it's a tough spot for Jimmy G. We got another question. This is from V. So we'll stick with the questions for now. Thoughts on Kyle Shanahan's in-game adjustment? Seems he lacks the counter punch when their defense figures out the initial strategy. I don't know. What do you think, Vish?
What's his adjustment supposed to be?
Yeah,
like they managed to move the ball in that game. Their defense did their job. Like, their defense played out of its mind. I'm still going back. Like, Dre Greenlaw, I tweeted it after the game. I thought that was his best game as a 49er. He was so fast. He was so violent. I went on this other show to do a pregame, and I talked about how, because Alex Smith checks the ball down a lot, and because Dre Greenlaw's responsibility is often the running back on certain defenses, the way they play certain looks, Dre Greenlaw was going to have a great game in terms of being fast and violent and getting to the ball and making tackles. He did that. He was outstanding. 3 straight 3-and-outs without Fred Warner. Like, that just doesn't.
I want to say something about Greenlaw real quick. He's not Patrick Willis. I'm going to say that.
No.
Starting off. But I covered Patrick Willis. And when Dre Greenlaw starts running to the sideline, he reminds me of Patrick Willis in a way. His burst to the sideline is special. It's not Patrick Willis special, but it is special, and he's a hell of a player. I like watching Dre Greenlaw.
He might be the best. He might be the cleanest tackler of the Niners linebackers.
He's a hell of a player.
Yeah, he's a good player.
He's a better tackler than Fred Warner. He hits harder than Fred Warner. He's faster than Fred Warner. Now, Fred Warner's better than him, but Dre Greenlaw gets like no credit. He's a hell of a player, better than Cohn.
Right. I mean, because they traded Cohn, right, and he was struggling the first few games after Cohn, but they kind of had him not playing. He's not as good as Cohn in coverage, but they had him play the things he does well. Robert Saleh did a phenomenal job of that, and they played well. But to answer your question, no, the initial strategy was to get Deebo Samuel the ball, and that was their only way of moving the ball in this offensive game, because they were going to have to win the edge. And they were going to have to get these linemen moving side to side and not being able to having to think instead of just pinning their ears back and rushing up the field. Well, all of those things didn't work. And then they didn't even get the lead because once the Jeff Wilson fumble happened when Juszczyk flubbed the block, and then Nick Mullins fumble happened, now you have to drop them back. What can you do?
Yeah, coming back to the initial question, I actually gave the coaching staff an A in my report card. I mean, the quarterback scored 14 points on himself. I like Nick Mullins, but that's why they lost. Now, he was under siege, and maybe he could have just taken the sacks and thrown the ball away the way, Alex Smith would have. He didn't. He did make a bad situation worse. That's what happened. So I can't blame Kyle Shanahan for that loss. I mean, what more could he do? When Deebo went down, they were going down. We got another question about Deebo before we move on. Does Deebo Samuel not work out during practice? I'm sure he does something, but it seemed his injury was bound to happen. Vish, you can't answer this. I'm not there either. Yeah. But what I will say is, it's not that to me, I mean, he injured it against New England. He tried to come back as fast as he could. It's a 3-week injury, but it lingers, and you can re-injure it. I mean, it seems like he's trying his best to be out there for his team, and he keeps re-injuring a nagging injury.
Yeah, I don't understand. This seems to be a constant theme. I don't know if it's a training staff issue, but how many times do we see players come back on this team and either we've talked about the setback ad nauseum, but forget the setback, just come back and re-injure the same thing. I don't know if he was ever even fully healthy. I mean, Raheem Mostert claims he's not fully healthy from his knee, ankle, whatever it's going on, and he's playing. So maybe Deebo's hamstring was feeling better, but it was still a little tight, and the moment he stretched it out, it was bad.
Final question, and then we'll get into our stuff, I promise, Vish. AJ, who's our biggest critic, he comes in here to keep us honest, says, okay, Grant, you persuaded me about Trubisky. I think Trubisky's played so well the past 2 weeks that it's not a foregone conclusion Chicago gets rid of him, because what are they going to do? So they may keep Trubisky. You live in Chicago. I've watched these games too, but real quick, your impression of what's going on with Trubisky right now.
He's playing much better. This is the best he's played as a quarterback for the Bears. Let's see if it continues, because I think there is a big confidence problem upstairs for Mitchell Trubisky.
No question. No question.
And for me, that's where when you look at an elite level athlete, I think the biggest thing you look for are confident athletes, because you're going to get hit. The NFL is naturally where you're going to get pushed down, and you're going to get pushed down. But the confident guys are the ones that still believe in themselves and get up. Like, it's the dichotomy between Akello Witherspoon and Emmanuel Mosley. Emmanuel Mosley has 100% self-belief. Akello Witherspoon doesn't.
True.
True. With Mitch Trubisky, I do have that question. So I think we have to see the rest of the year, because he's going to have one more rougher type game for sure.
And then what happens
this year? Yeah, is he going to bounce back? It's going to be my question.
The only reason that I'm intrigued, and I don't know the answer with him, but I always go back to Alex Smith. He may not be Alex Smith, but Alex Smith had confidence issues too, and it wasn't his fault. Drafted by a bad organization, all these different coaches and coordinators. And then finally, it clicked. What I'm seeing with Trubisky is I've always hated Nagy. I think he's a bum. So now he's no longer the play caller. They got someone else in who I have no opinion of, but he seems to be doing better than Nagy, and Trubisky seems to be doing okay. So maybe now that you've sort of isolated certain variables, maybe Nagy is the nagging variable that we can get out, and Trubisky can have like a successful career. Now, maybe the Niners won't have the opportunity. He looks too promising.
If it's 1 year, $1 million, where he gets cut and you can sign him for extra cheap, then I say, why not? I say, why not? And it brings us right. This perfectly segues to our topic about the quarterbacks.
Let's do it. Here we go. An honest assessment of Kyle Shanahan, the general manager, and his quarterbacks. And the backdrop here is we always see clips on Twitter from very smart people that we follow and respect saying, guys, Kyle Shanahan's still good. Look at the play. Their people are open. People aren't executing. And that's it's a fair thing to say. And it's people been saying about Kyle his whole career. But the thing is, he's not just an offensive coordinator, anymore. Vish, you explain it.
Yeah, so we see it too. Everybody sees it. Kyle's plays are still brilliant. First, happy birthday, Kyle. I'm still so happy that you're the coach of my team. And I'm a little disappointed. My birthday is December 13th. Yours is December 14th. I wish I was born one day later so we could share the same birthday, but that's okay.
Your birthday was yesterday?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Oh, happy birthday. I had no idea. So your birthday is December 13th? I'm January 13th. Hey.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
There's maybe something to that.
Maybe something to that. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a Sagittarius?
Is it maybe?
Sagittarius?
I don't know. I'm not.
I don't know.
Okay, but to get to Kyle, right? So, and we all see it. The quarterback play, is it a problem for the plays he's calling? Absolutely. Here's my problem. We all know what Kyle, along with all of us, knows what Nick Mullins is. He knows what Jimmy G is. And he clearly knows what C.J. Beathard is, right? If he's not putting C.J. Beathard into the game yesterday, that means he just doesn't think anything of C.J. Beathard, because that was a game where Nick Mullins had to be pulled. So there's that, right? And it just bothers me, man. It just bothers me. Everybody puts the blame on the quarterbacks and not on Kyle. Like, the quarterback's execution is a problem, but Kyle, your job is to get the quarterbacks. He's the guy in charge.
Job one.
Quarterbacks in.
Job one.
He realized in 2018, right? He realized in 2018 after that big contract, we were already starting to get some mixed feelings about Jimmy Garoppolo. They were exacerbated through the 2018 season and in the 2019 offseason. He had the 2019 draft to address the quarterback position. He did not pick any quarterback. I mean, there were guys with talent who went in the third and fourth round, at least more talent than Nick Mullins and CJ, who could have just rode the pine for the next 2 years and been ready when you're ready to move off of Jimmy now, right?
Do you have a name? Vish, do you have a name?
Jared Stidham. They picked Mitchell.
But who the Niners take? Who the Niners take instead? They took a punter.
It's not that I think Jarrett Stidham is going to be the next Tom Brady. It's just that Jarrett Stidham has talent. He's a good thrower of the ball, and you can sit him in your system for 2 years on the bench and have him ready to play next year.
It's just that we know Mitch Wishnowsky's not going to be the next Tom Brady, and Stidham at least has a chance because he throws the ball and doesn't kick it.
He's not even going to be the next Michael Dickinson.
How do you take someone who kicks the ball over someone who throws the ball? I mean, he kicks it.
See, and that's my problem. He's responsible for who these quarterbacks are. And people have asked him, right, are you going to take a quarterback's actually one of the parts of our team that I'm most happy with. I'm very pleased. We got 3 very good guys. We have not 1, but 2 backup quarterbacks. Well, you have an average starter, an average backup, and then a third string quarterback who you don't even deem an average backup because you won't put him in the game.
Refuse to play. Like, look, I like Nick Mullins very much, but any quarterback who commits 2 7-point mistakes gets benched. Jimmy, John Elway, it's not your day. You got to go down. And the fact that they kept Nick Mullins in the game just shows you what they think of CJ Beathard. That's all you need to know. So if that's how little you think of freaking CJ Beathard, why is he on your team?
Right. And so I love Kyle Shanahan. Like, a criticism I've gotten from people is like, hey, I like what you say, but you never criticize Kyle. Here I am. I'm criticizing Kyle. And it's Kyle, the coach, right? He's a great play caller. He does a great job. But his job is also to draft these quarterbacks. He's in charge of that. And if he didn't feel strongly convicted about what he had in the quarterback room, well, then it's also his job to be convicted enough to go make a change, right? You had an opportunity for Tom Brady. They said were out of the running, whatever, didn't happen. You could have picked a Jarrett Stidham. You could have picked, I don't know, I think Ryan Finley was also a 4th-round pick. There were guys there who are not that good but had enough talent where you could have sat them on your bench and developed them, you know? So I can't blame the quarterbacks for being who they are. This is who they are. But I can't blame the coach who everybody sits here and says, well, the quarterbacks aren't good enough. It's the coach's job to get these quarterbacks. Like Sean Payton.
Imagine 1982, some bizarro alternate dimension where Joe Montana got drafted by like the Jets or something, and Bill Walsh is just losing and floundering around and being like, well, you know, my plays work. It's just my quarterback stink. Well, dude, what are you doing? That's your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not the offensive coordinator anymore where Ray Farmer and Jimmy Haslam draft Johnny Manziel. Like, that's where we give you excuses. You didn't pick the guy. You had nothing to do with who's playing.
Yeah.
You're calling these great plays and the guy's unable to execute them. But, homie, Kyle, you're in charge of who picks these You're in charge of who these quarterbacks are.
Kyle, Vish just called you homie. You just got a homie from a 20-year-old. He's right, Kyle. You need to listen right now. Because look, we understand that you, homie, we understand that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't your choice and it was an arranged marriage. Vish knows all about arranged marriage. I know all about arranged marriages, all right? That wasn't your call. But that was 3 years ago, dude. How many drafts have you had since then where you could have taken a dude in round 4, round 5, could have done it, round 1? I mean, Green Bay has Aaron freaking Rodgers, and they were like, you know what? Let's get another quarterback because it's a really freaking important position. And it seems to be working out okay for them.
New England drafts a mid-round guy every
year.
Season. They did it with Tom Brady. They were drafting. So it's not. This is a Kyle problem.
Yeah.
Kyle,
you don't get this excuse.
No, it's not an excuse. Only because I think we all agree. We can all see what Nick Mullins and what CJ Beathard and what Jimmy Garoppolo are doing. We all agree with you. They're not good enough. But it's your job to get what's good enough. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I can't fathom a world where people sit there and say, "Oh, Sean Payton, you know, your plays are working great, and you lost Drew Brees, and you know Taysom Hill is just not good enough." Well, no, they'll say, "Sean, you gave Taysom Hill that extension. You were the one who swore up and down that Taysom Hill was going to be your starting quarterback. Well, you better get it done with Taysom Hill."
Yeah. Don't tell me that you had a guy open in the left flat. No. This is the quarterback you wanted. Make it work. These are how we grade you. This is the rubric. Right. Yeah. You're not on the offensive coordinator grading scale anymore. You're on the head coach, GM, vice president, owner of the team. Yeah.
He can't waffle this. He can't say, I didn't particularly want Jimmy, but you never gave yourself an out from Jimmy. The contract gave you $1 million outs, but guess what, dude? We could be sitting here 5 months from now, and Matthew Stafford could stay on the Lions. The Niners could be picking up 15, putting the top 3 guys totally out of their range to go pick them, and they don't have a lot of picks to move up. Like everybody thinks, oh, the Niners, they're just going to move up. They have 6 picks. If Robert Saleh doesn't get a job, they have 6 picks. Or I think they have 7. They might have an extra 7th rounder or something somewhere. But they don't have a lot of picks to just package everything. So either you're gonna just nuke this year's draft, and you're gonna nuke next year's draft, and you're gonna go up and get the quarterback, which kind of works to an extent. But guess what? Here's another perfect segue.
Perfect segue.
Right? Trent Baalke.
Because we got over here says the health of Kittle and Deebo may make Mullins look better. Yeah, but McGlinchey's still on the field. What you got is pocket quarterbacks who don't move that well behind one of the worst pass protecting offensive lines. What could go wrong, Vish? What could possibly go wrong?
Well, the health of Kittle and Deebo. Deebo and Kittle were healthy last year. And let's forget Mullins. Let's say Jimmy, who's better than Mullins. And he wasn't good enough, right? He wasn't good enough. That's all what we heard. And so if he's not good enough, then you have to get something that's good enough. And here's the segue, because this is the problem, okay? This is what happened to Trent Baalke. He drafted great in 2010 and 2011. And then once those guys started leaving and stuff, you had to have good drafts in 2012 and 2013 to rebuild your team. And he had the picks to do it, and he didn't draft well. And that's how that team fell apart.
Yep.
And that's what's going to start happening to the 49ers now. This is where we're going to see the mistakes of Dante Pettis. We're going to see the mistakes of Mike McGlinchey not being a star right tackle or a starting caliber right tackle come to bite them, because Jaquiski Tartt is going to walk, and he's an excellent safety. But you don't have a replacement because Tarvarius Moore isn't good enough. And Jason Verrett might walk, but you didn't draft a corner, and Richard Sherman will walk, but you didn't draft a corner. And, you might lose a couple interior offensive linemen, but or Weston Richburg is done, but you haven't drafted a center or any kind of interior offensive lineman that you can feel confident going into next year. So this is where the roster turnover is going to happen, and we're going to see all these mistakes that didn't hurt them the last 2 years start to hurt them.
And what we're seeing is Kyle Shanahan, the general manager, hurt Kyle Shanahan, the head coach. And the thing is, his dad did that. His dad did that in Denver. When he failed in Denver, everyone said, you know what? Mike Shanahan, the executive, got Mike Shanahan, the coach, fired, right? And you know what? Kyle could get that too. If it doesn't work out for him in San Francisco, people will be like, well, you know what? Maybe he got too much power. And then down the line, if he fails again, it'd be maybe he's just an offensive coordinator. So this is what he needs to realize. This is how he's being judged. It's not just turn on the tape, look at my plays. It's who did I choose? And I want to talk about the offensive line before we talk about Saleh and Baalke. We're going to get to them. But I mean, to me, the offensive line is intertwined with the quarterback issue. So let's put it on the ticker. Part of the issue was that, look, the Niners had bad luck this year. You can list all the bad luck the Niners had, from the injuries to the pandemic to getting evicted, all that stuff. This is the quarterback room they wanted, and this is the offensive line room they wanted.
Yeah.
Now, they thought they would have Ben Garland, but who's Ben Garland? You can't say, hey, we lost Ben Garland. I mean, come on, man.
Right. So go ahead.
You knew you weren't going to have Richburg. I mean, I guess you thought you didn't think McGlinchey would regress like this, but it's not like he was a stud anyway. You knew this was your biggest issue after the Super Bowl. It's one of the main reasons you lost in the fourth quarter, and they never really took it seriously. They addressed the defensive line, not the offensive line.
Yeah, it's like this again. We do understand all the problems. Like, I did go off on Kyle a little bit regarding the quarterbacks, but they were in a real sticky situation with all those things. Like, that's absolutely true. It's absolutely one of the reasons, the season didn't work. But again, this offensive line, it just comes back to what we talked about, like, they didn't address this offensive line, like, I don't know where they could have been, like, in thinking in their head that Weston Richburg was going to come back. I remember reading from some online doctor, one of the PFF doctors or whatever, when the moment he tore his patella, he's like, that's a torn patella and he's going to be out all of next year. It was there. People thought it. So I'm sure that the Niners medical staff isn't dumb. I'm sure they would have been telling him, well, it's most likely that he's not going to come back. And, Richburg has had a torn quad and a torn patella. Who knows if he's going to even ever be the same? And they didn't have the interior offensive line at all. And it's the same thing. They tried to rebuild something that didn't work. We spent $3.5 million on a right guard and Mike Person. Let's spend the same $3.5 million on Tom Compton. And it's just one for one. Oh, we lost to Forrest Buckner. Let's pay Eric Armstead. Let's get Javon Kinlaw. We're going to have the same team. We're going to go back and do the same thing. Well, guess what? You didn't win the Super Bowl. Only the Chiefs can do the same thing again because it worked for them. No matter the variables, no matter what happened, it didn't happen.
I feel like the Niners created their own bad luck to an extent. Bringing back the 3 quarterbacks that you felt weren't good enough and putting them behind the offensive line that couldn't pass protect, and you knew you weren't going to have Richburg. You just were asking for bad stuff to happen. I think things snowballed from there. But to me, what's so interesting about this offseason is I think a lot of people, a lot of Niner fans feel like, well, just bring in Trey Lance. We're good. Just bring in a mobile quarterback. All problems are solved. And to which I say, no. Absolutely not. First of all, what you need is a guy with pocket presence, not a guy with wheels. Watch Lance.
Right.
Tell me if he has pocket presence. Tell me if he feels pressure in the pocket or if he just gets bumped into and starts running. You watch.
I haven't watched enough Lance, but I'll say the number one example of this is a guy that I loved when he was on the 49ers, and Colin Kaepernick. Outstanding runner, one of the best runners I've ever seen from the quarterback position. Easy, long speed, just outstanding runner. He was horrible at moving in the pocket. He was horrible. Slow-footed. He didn't always have presence on where to move in the pocket. It was one of his bigger problems when the offensive line, big Anthony Davis and all of that. Like, people were comparing him to Russell Wilson. They were like, wait, Russell Wilson's line sucks. And he's
quick and elusive.
All of this. Yeah. And it was the big thing with Kaepernick. So that's just the issue. That's the big issue. For me, like, if you bring in a rookie quarterback, he's such an unknown. So I throw out Matthew Stafford all the time. You bring in Matthew Stafford, and I've never said they're going to win Super Bowls. And the reason I don't say Super Bowls and I say MVPs is because he's going to do better in the regular season and stuff. But this offensive line is still this offensive line. And at some point, Matthew Stafford is going to get affected by that. And that might be the playoffs where, you play the Minnesota Vikings and Danielle Hunter is all over you. Or you play the New Orleans Saints and Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport and Trey Hendrickson are just killing you. So Matthew Stafford would be better in the short term, but the goal is Super Bowl. And with this offensive line, he still wouldn't be able to win the Super Bowl.
Let's make it real clear, real simple. A team cannot win a Super Bowl with Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. Now, the Niners got close last year, but Mike McGlinchey is trending in a different direction. He's losing weight, and I don't know. 2020, Mike McGlinchey might have been the worst right tackle in the NFL. Maybe there are some backups who got thrust into duty who aren't as good as him, but guys who were supposed to be starters, he's got awful. And unless the Niners are real confident that he's going to put on 20 pounds and a bunch of strength and come back playing like he did a couple of years ago, which was like a mediocre level anyway, they need to have a plan B there. And I don't know what that is, Vish. They're in a weird spot this offseason. They only have one first-round pick.
They're in a weird spot in all the positions that everybody says is a need. And, I think I'm a little less hard on the offensive line than you. I've talked about how I think all offensive line playing the NFL is bad. And, if a quarterback can move and all those things. And, yes, it'll help the Niners offensive line to an extent, but that doesn't mean that the Niners offensive line doesn't need to be upgraded. It absolutely
It's not good enough.
Right.
It's not good enough. From center to right guard to right tackle.
Right. You bring my guy, Matthew Stafford. I'll just keep bringing him up. You bring him in, he's going to make the offensive line look better than Jimmy and Nick Mullins. Absolutely.
No
It'll be average. It'll be good enough. But then there'll still be a game where, the offensive line and Mike McGlinchey, people pin their ears back. Like Tom Brady made it work with the year Dante Scarnecchia retired. Tom Brady made it work with that patchwork offensive line all year. And then they went into Denver, and Von Miller and DeMarcus were teed off. And even Tom Brady couldn't do anything. And he's one of the best pocket movers we've ever seen.
That's right. So what I'm saying is, look, the Niners, say the Niners are lucky enough to get Zach Wilson. He's going to do a much better job behind this line than Jimmy and Nick. Because Zach Wilson's a good athlete, but he's still going to get hit. It's still not good enough. And then, God forbid, Zach Wilson gets hurt behind this offensive line. And then it's like, well, you just compromised your investment, putting him in a bad situation that you knew was bad. And then guess who's coming in next? Nick Mullins again. So you're in the same position you were in last year. So really, just drafting a quarterback may not be the quick fix. I mean, the Niners have 2 issues on offense, and they're interlocked.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. And I feel like there's two schools of thinking right now. There's the offensive line is not that good. It's the quarterback issue. And then there's the quarterbacks will all look better between the offense and if the offensive line was improved. Guess what? My favorite answer to this question. There's nuance. It's somewhere in between.
It's both. It's both.
Yeah, it's both.
Neither unit was good enough coming into this season. It was not a bad luck issue. It was a misjudgment on offensive line and at quarterback, and they got to find a way to fix both this offseason with limited cap space, 40 free agents, and limited draft picks. It's a very tough spot, but Kyle's smart. He can figure it out. He created the situation for himself. So, Kyle, let's see what you do.
Right.
All right, let's talk about the third thing. There are basically three big needs the Niners have: quarterback, offensive line, and corner, which is kind of interesting because it's the same needs they had last year, and they addressed none of them. So now they got to do it. They kick the can down the field.
Noah Johnston, right? You posted that comment of him saying, well, the market for Tart and Verrett might not be that much. It might not be that much, except if Robert Saleh gets a job somewhere that has cap room, then he would be
Jacksonville.
Right, he would be willing to pay because Jaquaski Tart is a phenomenal safety. You're not going to draft safeties like Jaquaski Tart.
Yeah, let's say Saleh goes to Jacksonville. They got $80 million in cap space. He could get Tart. He could bring Verrett. He could bring Sherman.
Harry Hyder.
Mm-hmm.
They're all getting more money to stay with someone that they've been successful with.
Also, Jacksonville has Baalke. I'm sure he'd like to bring back Tart.
Yeah, I think
he would. Absolutely. Yeah. He brought back Bruce Miller. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Saleh can really take these free agents to Jacksonville with them.
That's the big problem, right? And that's what happens. And no, I'm not hyping up Tart too much. You gotta really watch. The guy's phenomenal. Mully would better. He needs to be kicked.
Sean hates Nick Mullins. He wouldn't even have him on his horseshoe team. All right, okay. All I'm saying is Nick Mullins is going to be the long-term backup on this team. And if they ever address the offensive line, he'll be just a terrific backup in this system on this team. But yeah, get a quarterback, but also get an offensive line. Because if you don't like watching Nick Mullins, you're going to see him more next year if they don't fix this offensive line.
No, Sean, we 100% agree. We agree. Yeah. You know I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. But Grant's also right here. It's a twofold issue. And it's not that Grant's saying that. Grant's just been the one stressing the offensive line more because there's other people already stressing the quarterback.
I'm balancing. But let's come back to the corners. I think it's an interesting thing. I think a lot of people think, well, Verrett's coming back. Actually, he's played so well that he could be in the Emmanuel Sanders boat. Yeah. Like a guy who gets 8-9 million, not 4.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he take it too? Why wouldn't he take it? He should have been paid a big corner. I don't even know if he got that big corner contract that he deserved from the way he was playing at the beginning of his career. Did he?
No.
Didn't. No. So why wouldn't he take it? He deserves
He's going to take it. Yeah.
Very high.
And I think if he was going to take a team-friendly deal and give the Niners a discount, he probably would have signed that deal already. I'm sure there's a real, cheap deal on the table if he wants it. Nah, man, he's going to go get 8-9 million and be happy. Right. Probably playing for Robert Saleh in Jacksonville.
7 million, right? I don't think the Niners could even do that because Richard Sherman outlined it for us. They have 30 free agents, right? Yeah. Kyle Juszczyk, what's his value? Who knows? Let's talk about it, right?
So theoretically, the people they have in their secondary next year, let's list it. Emmanuel Mosley, restricted free agent, they can keep him. Tavarius Moore, Marcel Harris. That's it. 3 players.
Yeah, I mean, Noah Johnston he brought it up. It's a good point. There will be other players, but there won't be – if you're going to equate the value to Verrett, I don't think you will. And my other thing is, Grant, there's one more detail if Saleh goes.
Hold on. Noah. Just real quick. They have $30 million in cap space, but they have $40 million free agents. They got to extend Fred Warner and extend Trent Williams. They don't have cap space.
Right. Anyway. And the other thing is, Grant, we didn't actually talk about this, and I think you actually missed one entire part of this. If Saleh goes, guess who? He's probably taking one of LaFleur and McDaniel with him. And
not to mention one of Costa Rican D'Amico Ryans with him. Yes.
I don't know about Costa Rican. I think Costa Rican.
One of those guys will be his D coordinator. Maybe not Costa, but maybe Ryans.
Yeah, maybe. So the Niners might have to promote D'Amico to keep him. Who knows?
Yeah.
If he takes Mike, or he might take the pass game coordinator actually that he hired as his defensive coordinator, that Rutenberg that he had with him in Jacksonville.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That might be his guy. But if he takes Mike McDaniel or Mike LaFleur with him, Mike McDaniel and Mike LaFleur would be in the situation where they have to instill their system at the place they go. So why wouldn't they take Kendrick Bourne with them? Okay, the Niners don't really need Kendrick Bourne. Take Kyle Juszczyk with them. Okay,
oh my God.
Kyle Juszczyk.
Maybe they'll take Jimmy Garoppolo.
Who knows?
Maybe they'll take Jimmy. Here's the thing about going to Jacksonville. It's perfect. They have the second pick. I wouldn't want to take Fields. Would you take Zach Wilson or would you trade for Garoppolo or Wentz? I don't know. Probably Wilson, but it'd be interesting to see what they did.
If you're LaFleur and McDaniel, and who knows, maybe they like Jimmy and Jimmy gets cut. Why don't you say, hey, Jimmy, come with us. You'll get $8 million. We'll draft a guy, but we'll sit the guy for a little bit and have you be our stopgap guy. You can do what Stan Bradford did. Even if it's 4 games, Jimmy, you get a good payday.
I'm telling you, dude, Saleh leaving and potentially going to Jacksonville with their $80 million in cap space is got to be scary for the Niners. Got to be. Considering all the coaches, the position coaches and players that they could bring over there with them. It's an interesting thought. But
my other big thing with that is that without the cap space and stuff, the Niners don't exactly have an abundance when it comes to draft capital too.
They don't.
This team with young talent, like we saw Minnesota just do it this year, right? They lost Everson Griffin, but they were able to trade for Yannick Ngakoue, but then they lost Ngakoue. They lost their entire secondary, but they drafted like 3 corners, right? Gladney and a couple others.
Right.
And they lost Diggs, but they were able to replace him with Jefferson. They had a giant draft. They were able to draft a ton of people. The Niners can't really run the draft board. You can't run the draft board with 6 picks each in 1 round.
No, you can't. No. All right, let's move on. Let's reassess 49ers general manager Trent Baalke because Niner fans hated him when he left for good reason. I mean, he messed up some stuff.
Yes.
But now we've seen 4 years of the new front office, and they make their mistakes too. They really do. And Baalke's back in Jacksonville, and for all of his faults, he's not a general manager now. He's director of player personnel. But he does certain things well. Like, look at Jacksonville. They have no dead cap next year. They have $80 million in cap space. He really is like an accountant. He cleared that up. Or I don't know what you would call it. He just really cleared that up and also gave him a bunch of draft picks. That's one thing he always did. He would stockpile. He wouldn't just trade them away. They have 5 picks in the top 66.
And now what he can do is he can pivot any which way he wants. If he likes a player so much, he has the capital to trade up, and he still is going to get 5 other players in the draft. If he doesn't like a player, he can move down. He controls the draft board, so that's the key for him. He's also – so the way I saw him is he drafted really well in 2010, right? He got Big Anthony Davis, Upati, the Navarro Bowman pick. Like, come on. 3rd round, trade down 10 picks, and get an all-pro linebacker. Like, that's special. That's special.
He's good at drafting players who block and tackle.
Right, and he did a good job in 2011 too, right? Like, who thought the Niners were going to pick a Hall of Fame or a guy who had a Hall of Fame type of trajectory if he didn't have those issues at number 7, right? People weren't even talking Aldon Smith. They were talking Blaine Gabbert. A couple people threw out Robert Quinn at the time. Some people like me were praying Patrick Peterson would fall, and they picked Aldon Smith, and that was a terrific pick. Like, the Niners hadn't had a first-round pick like Aldon Smith where, like, you can say Bosa, but you and me could have drafted Bosa too. It wasn't that hard. So when I look at what he did there, he did an excellent job. Where he really screwed up is where this regime is right now. So you had those 2 good drafts. You picked up an accumulated talent. You had a couple of fails in those drafts, but actually he screwed up in 2 spots. The first one is well documented, right? He couldn't get along with coaches, and that's why that's what ultimately led to his
ego.
downfall.
I know better than you. I know better than you. Yeah.
Right, and he deserved every bit of criticism that he got for that, and I was happy that he was gone. I still am happy that he was gone because of that. That's a problem. But number 2 was when after these 2 great drafts, the team was stockpiled with talent. When guys started to walk, his 2012 draft really hurt him. It wasn't that good. His 2013 draft, when he started getting these ACL guys and Marcus Martin, who was just didn't have the play strength to play in the NFL, and all these guys, that hurt him. And then 2014, they lost Borland and Patrick Willis and all these people, but he didn't draft anybody that could replace these guys.
The red shirt committee got him fired. The red shirt committee got him fired.
Right. And that's where the Niners are going to be now. Well, Baalke had a few players for them. So yeah, so we had Tart, right? We had Tart waiting.
Buckner, Armstead,
Buckner, Armstead, Ward. These
Ward,
are all,
who they love so much.
Right. These are top defensive players on the 49ers.
Yeah.
Top defensive players on the 49ers. Even Armstead, whatever you say, they gave him a new contract. So they think very high.
Who's the best defensive player this regime has drafted? Warner, Greenlaw, the linebackers, because Saleh's great with linebackers. But Solomon Thomas.
Nick Bosa.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But the point is,
I would have taken.
Now, this is where the Solomon Thomas fail, the Reuben Foster fail, all these things hurt them, right? Because now you pay Fred Warner. When Dre Greenlaw's up, what do you do with Dre Greenlaw? But you don't really have a linebacker waiting in the wings that you can just go with Dre Greenlaw. You know what I mean? And now when you start to lose guys because you have to pay the top guys, well, you're hoping that you drafted and developed all these guys that are waiting to start taking these roles. But the Niners now, they're kind of in that sticky spot where these bad picks like Pettis, because now that you didn't have Pettis didn't work out, you had to trade 2 picks to get Brandon Aiyuk, which means you had to trade 2 picks to get Emmanuel Sanders, which means that those 4 picks are 4 possible players that could have been on the 49ers developed in order to help them in the long term in different positions. So it's a really sticky situation.
So let's come back to Baalke real quick. He wouldn't make these mistakes. In a sense, the Niners are doing a lot of things that most GMs in the NFL wouldn't do. They're like trading up for players, losing draft capital, and then chasing mistakes. Right? And Baalke, what he would do is he's much more conservative than that. He wouldn't make these mistakes. Now, he might pick the wrong players, not understand what his coaches want, but he's probably sitting in Jacksonville like, I wouldn't have done that.
He traded, the AJ Jenkins pick was bad. Was it absolutely bad? But the thing with him is that he traded him for John Baldwin after a year and a half or 2 years. So he had a short leash on it.
A year, 1 year.
Right. He was willing, to accept his mistakes. Like he cut LaMichael James and he cut Brandon Thomas and all these guys. Like he understood that he screwed up. He just screwed up way too many times with his draft picks that really led to his downfall. But this regime, right, they kept Pettis around for 2 years while giving up 2 picks for Emmanuel Sanders, while giving up 2 picks for Brandon Aiyuk. And now Brandon Aiyuk, I tweeted out yesterday, he's the best thing about the Niners season. He's going to be a super, super, superstar. But to get Brandon Aiyuk and those 2 picks, you're giving up something somewhere else. And we're not going to see it now because they were able to load up with talent and draft picks the last 2-3 years. But we're going to see it now next year and the year after when all these guys start to leave, these undrafted guys like an Emmanuel Mosley and a Ross Dwelly and just a bunch of different guys that way. When they start to leave, that's when we're going to start to see, well, you didn't draft well in these areas and now you don't have any talent there. And that's where we're going to really see how good this regime is because Trent Baalke also was successful for his first 3 years. He had a great 2010 draft. He had a great 2011 draft.
Executive of the year in 2011. Executive of the year in 2011. So it's interesting. Maybe Niner fans, I mean, they were through with him for good reason in 2016. But if you hold the current front office to the same standard you held Baalke to, it may surprise you how angry you end up being at what's going on in right now.
They will end up getting held to that standard if the same things happen because everybody loved Baalke in 2010, 2011, 2012 still. So
Trader Trent.
This is the front office is still at the area, that type of spot. And so I'm very interested. What do they do? Because it's not going to be a rebuild through the draft situation. Because it's not really a rebuild. It's, well, if you get a young quarterback, then you're kind of rebuilding because you got to wait probably at least a year to get that guy ready NFL reps to be a Super Bowl team again. But when you wait that year, like one more year of George Kittle getting older, maybe a little more wear and tear because of his physical style, one more year of Deebo getting older, there's also there's positive and negative variables that we could put through that way. So it's going to be
it's a conundrum and they created it themselves. This is their problem. We're going to do the best we can to help them because Vish is quality control too, but it's just, we didn't create this problem. Kyle, this is you. So we're going to try. That's why you bring us in. We're the fixers. All right, let's answer this question from Horatio because he is definitely an MVP of the show. Horatio, he's like 16. Gotta love Horatio. He says, was passing on A.J. Brown a huge mistake? I think it's a legit question because I wanted the Niners to draft A.J. Brown. No, because I did. But he's durable. He's a stud. I mean, in his way, he's just as good as Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
He just does it a little bit differently. Deebo Samuel really does help the Niners offense, but geez, A.J. Brown helps any quarterback.
Right.
What do you think in hindsight? And I think it's fair because a lot of people wanted A.J. Brown before that pick.
Okay, so quarterbacks in this offense, right, A.J. Brown would be a quarterback's best friend because technically Tennessee's offense is pretty similar. And A.J. Brown in cuts over the middle, running the dagger concept with Corey Davis clearing out, A.J. Brown coming in behind. How many times do we see it? Ryan Tannehill is very accurate. They throw that 15-yard in cut, and A.J. Brown's really good at running after the catch. He's fantastic. But no, I don't think it's a mistake. I think with where Kyle Shanahan's vision for this offense and this run game, Deebo Samuel was the right pick. I don't think it's fair to look at like A.J. Brown is as good of a player as Deebo Samuel, and just a different type of player. But no, I don't think it was a mistake. I think they needed that evolution because I'm not sure just looking at 2019 Jimmy, they could have just run 15-yard in cuts constantly as their offense built on the dagger concept. They needed that run game. They needed to be able to set it up for Breida and Coleman and then eventually Mostert and had it all run through Deebo. Yeah, I don't think it was a mistake.
I'm going to disagree with you politely and respectfully. I'm going to say it was a mistake, and not because of the player he is. He's better than I thought he would be. But it's because of durability. I mean, this is not a new issue with Deebo. They saw it in college. They said, okay, we're going to go with it. And they've been making that choice pretty much since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan got here. They've been rolling the dice on players who haven't proven their durability. And I think that's part of the reason they can't say every year, well, we've had bad luck with injuries. Well, you created your luck. And I think in the future, they need to prioritize durability more. So only for that reason, I question the pick. The guy had hamstring injuries and broken bones in college. Eventually stop doing this. Stop with because I mean, in that draft, it was a great draft, 2019. But honestly, Nick Bosa, not durable, hasn't proven it. Deebo Samuel hasn't proven it, and Jalen Hurd. Those were their first three picks. The Niners need to get off those kind of players. One of them, fine, but three to start your draft, you're asking for bad luck.
Yeah,
you're asking for bad luck. I mean, one of those or two or all three are going to get hurt. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I really think they need to prioritize. They talk about the best ability being availability. All right, then live by that. I'm just saying. I know GMs are like, well, he's hurt, so you can get a value. All right, or you can get a bust. Kevin Wang has a question. It's a good one. Better for the Niners to go 8-8 or tank to 5-11? I think they should go 8-8 and be like the 2019 Mike Tomlin to feel confident about the organization for 2021. What do you think?
No, going 5-11 is not an option. This is a roster that's ready for a big playoff run and a Super Bowl push. This is not an average roster. There's not average teams with, unless you're the Dallas Cowboys, teams with players like George Kittle, who's a top 10 player in the NFL, even if he's injured, a player like Nick Bosa, who's elite even though he's injured, and Fred Warner, players like this, you can't go 5-11 and stunt your growth that way and restart with the quarterback and do all those things. Going 8-8 would be positive. Like, look at the Steelers. They went 8-8 with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. That's where the Niners' goal should be. If the Niners go 8-8, Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan, it's a coach of the year. It's a assistant coach of the year, and it's a head coach of the year type performance. That's where they should be gunning for. It doesn't matter to get 5 spots up the draft. You have to set a tone, set a culture, and they have had too many losing seasons with Kyle Shanahan. If you go 8-8, it's not a losing season, and you continue this trend of winning culture, because then you can be like, look, we got evicted from our home. We lost our quarterback, tight end. We lost all these great players, and we still went 8-8.
Still went 8-8. And that was Pittsburgh's whole message all offseason. Like, wait till we get our guys back. No one's going to want to play us. And it was true. Right. The Niners, if they limp into the offseason, if they go 5-11, that means they would finish the season having lost. They're 5-6 right now. 3 more. That would be losing 8 of 9 games. That's a great way to go into the offseason. Yeah, dude, I don't think now they may end up tanking. That's a different issue.
They are.
But they should be trying to win these games. I can only imagine how depressing it is to be in Arizona right now. Yeah. Eliminated from basically from the playoffs, not at home.
It's brutal.
Could get ugly. But yeah, they should be fighting to get to 8-8.
That's where, like, to just take a slight tangent, I hope all the players' mental health and everything, I hope they have somebody to talk to and it's good, because it's got to be brutal being away from your family. And it's not like they can have a good time with each other either. They're basically like in the NBA bubble with not that many activities and just their job on a team where everybody else is upset because you're losing and you wanted to win. I hope that their mental health and everything is okay and like all those players are doing well.
I don't think it's fun in Glendale right now. All right, this is the last topic we got, and then we'll take as many questions as you got. Let's reassess the Brandon Aiyuk pick in this. Well, hold on. We got a question first, and then we'll come to the Brandon Aiyuk pick. Kent Catchum, let me get you up. Says, I had the biggest man crush on Jimmy back in 17. Now he's just someone I used to know. If we have a top 10 pick, who is your preference at quarterback? Okay. Vish.
Yeah, for me, the preference at quarterback is Zach Wilson. Trevor Lawrence is totally out of the question. I like Zach Wilson a lot. I like the way he throws the ball. I like his moxie. I like everything about him. I think he's a really special thrower. He's got all the arm angles. He's got all the platforms. He can do all those kinds of things, which is what we're seeing as the trend with quarterback. How smart he is and all of that, I don't know. Not like Deshaun Watson or Burrow or a guy like that where I'm very confident with his mental process or even Tua. So I'm interested with that.
Or even Trask.
Yeah, if it's a top 10, I'm looking at Zach Wilson.
The thing with Wilson that I like, I mean, beyond the arm and the release, which are great, A+, his feet. It's very quick feet.
Fantastic.
I mean, I don't know how much I don't know if he's gonna be running for 5 yards a carry, but just the way he moves in the pocket, super quick feet. Physically, he's got it. The thing about Zach Wilson is, to me, he's the number 2 pick in the draft. I think the more people look at him and compare him to Justin Fields and Trey Lance, he's gonna go number 2, and if he doesn't, then that's someone's mistake.
He's got a little off-brand Mahomes feel to him.
He's got a little off-brand Rodgers to him, man. He's a little bit smaller than Mahomes, but he's got that moxie to him.
Yeah, there is something there, and I think he's going to be a case of, well, we missed out on Mahomes and we missed out on Deshaun Watson a little bit, like guys who had similar skill sets. Let's not miss out on this guy. And I think I agree with you. I think once the process goes through, I really think he's got a good shot of being the guy behind Trevor Lawrence over Justin Fields. Just
look, if Trent Baalke hires me as a draft consultant, which I think is likely, I would tell him, Trent, you've done everything right. You cleared out the dead cap. You got cap space. You control the draft. You have all these picks. You will fail. Everything will be undone if you take Justin Fields with the second pick. Please don't do it. Nothing against Justin Fields. The guy went to the wrong school. He's not prepared to play in the NFL. It'd be like taking Bortles. Maybe he'll be better than Bortles, but you will ruin everything you've done. Take Zach. Take Zach Wilson, and you'll be fine. That team will be fine.
Yeah, but the problem is that I don't think the pick is going to end up in the top 10. I just have too much belief in my guy. Like, I know I've been a little critical of him today, but I still believe way too much in how good of a coach both Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh is, and their just ability to create game plans that bring the Niners with less than ideal talent to have the opportunity to win games.
Okay, all right. We got about 12 minutes left, and we're going to take some more questions. We got one more topic to talk about as well.
We can go till about 2:10.
Okay, great. Terrific. Dylan says, I think the Niners should take that right tackle from Notre Dame in the first round. He's great at run blocking. I actually don't know who that is. Who?
It sounds a lot
like – talking about Mike McGlinchey?
Yeah. He is a great run blocker still, right? He still is a great run blocker. He's
no more right tackles from Notre Dame, please.
It's
left tackle great.
See, again, with Mike McGlinchey, he's kind of I feel bad for him because he looks like a guy that's not taken a lot of criticism in his life, and he seems overwhelmed by the responsibilities and the pressures. So first, Mike, I hope like everything upstairs, you're settled and you have people you can talk to and get yourself confident and being yourself again. But the other thing with him is that he was a top 10 pick. We talked about this I feel like we rehash stuff that we talk about all the time because I feel like we talk about it and then it gets it gets exacerbated and multiplied and the problem becomes bigger like by times 2. So then we have to rehash it. With him, it's like you don't take run blocking right tackles at pick 9. If he was a second round pick as a run blocking right tackle, average pass protector, fine.
Go for it.
He's a top 10 pick. With a top 10 pick, you want Jedrick Wills.
You want Colton Miller. You're shooting for the moon. I want someone who's going to be on the left side.
You want Laramie Tunsil.
Yup.
It's going to be a right tackle. You want Lane Johnson. You want Tristan Wirfs, the guy you look at and say, that's my right tackle for the next 10 years. Pass pro, run blocking. And he's not that.
Yeah. Says he thinks his name is Mark. Damn, you really spent $5 to make that joke. I like it. I almost said it too. I almost said it on YouTube. I would have been shut down for life, but that was good. I'm going to use that joke in the future. Thank you. All right, hold on. We got someone with a real question. Scotty P. Scotty Pippen. Big fan of the show. The possibility of landing. What?
I said sorry about Larson, Malik Beasley.
The possibility of landing Wilson is next to impossible. What do the Niners need to do to give up more, to move up and draft him? And who is the trade partner?
Okay. Well, I would have to go back and it's Jacksonville or somebody up there, right? Somebody in that top 3 picks. Maybe you got to hope maybe Dallas finishes with the top 3 pick and they work out the Dak Prescott contract and you're like, we can move up with them. But here's the big thing with the Niners. I want to go back and look. I'll have to do this at some point and look at what the draft situation was for both the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs when they traded up to get Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Because the Niners picks, it's not like they're just sitting here with 10 picks. Okay, we can move up. Because when the Rams traded up for Jared Goff, they had a lot of picks and they were able to do it because they had the RG3 trade and all of that. So they still had a ton of picks from that. When the Eagles did it for Carson Wentz, they traded to Miami, Byron Max. Did they trade Byron Maxwell, Kiko Alonso to Miami? They traded something to Miami where they had enough assets and picks where they could do that. The Niners don't exactly just have a ton of picks where they could just say, all right, we'll just give you our entire draft and go get Zach Wilson. And then the pressure on Zach Wilson to do all of that would be too much. Like you're giving up the house for him. So I think it would have to be at least 2 first-round picks, right?
And that's to me, like, I don't think the Niners are in a position that they can do that. Now, some 49er fans will say, screw it, do it. I think the Niners have too many issues as corner and on their offensive line to put all their eggs in one position and say, you know what, Zach Wilson, be our savior. Run around, make Mike McGlinchey look good, make Colton McKivitz look good, make up for the fact that our starting corners are Emmanuel Mosley and Brian Allen. Go ahead. Be Aaron Rodgers right now. I don't know, man. I mean, ideally they trade up for Zach Wilson. Yeah, but I don't think they can. Vish. I think it's their fault.
I don't think they have the assets. I don't know. I want to go back. Before I make that claim, I want to go back and look at what the Chiefs were dealing with. But there's also a big difference to trading to number 10 and number 12 than there is to trading to top 5. When you're trading to top 5, the price is big. Like, look at the difference between the RG trade. Like, everybody's like, people traded up for Lamar, pick 32. People traded, they traded up for Mahomes and Watson.
True.
Picks 10 and 12. Look at the RG3. That's what you have to give up.
Yeah, when you look at the trade value chart, those picks in the top 5 are worth outright. It's really hard to get up there.
Did the Jets trade 3 second-rounders and pick number 6 to get up to pick number 3 when they got Darnold? Was it that?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah. It was pretty rich.
And what did Philly do to get Wentz? They had to trade up twice.
The house, Rams to Goff. I mean, that was to trading to 1, but still they gave up the house. So if you're trading up between 1 to 4 or 1 to 5, because that's where I think people are going to end up saying he's going to go, like, this is not a Watson Mahomes situation. And they're not sitting here where, maybe if you throw in Nick Bosa and George Kittle, you can do it for Nick Bosa, George Kittle, and a 1. But
yeah, Zach Wilson is not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
He is not Deshaun Watson. I like him. But just trading 3 first-round picks to move up 10 spots and get Zach Wilson, what is the upside there? He's not Deshaun Watson. I mean, you think he's going to be Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. Maybe.
Of the top 5 guys, though, right? Because Watson and Mahomes kind of got put into opportune spots because they were drafted in the teens and they were drafted to 2 playoff-type teams with kind of weapons on their team. Like, Goff, I guess, has worked out. Wentz, I mean, you can't really say he's worked out when his backup quarterbacks seem to always play better than him, even though he has great physical tools.
That's true.
Robert Griffin didn't work out. So, like, Sam Darnold, did he work out? I don't think so. So, what's the – I don't know what you can really say and sit here and be like, it works out and all of that. So,
We got another question from Scotty P. When are we going to hold Lynch accountable for making bad decisions? Why are Bay Area sports fans immune to holding management accountable?
When we give him credit for all the draft picks, we don't sit here and say John Lynch identified Brandon Aiyuk and went and took Brandon Aiyuk. We don't say that.
Nope. It's all Kyle.
Right, it's Kyle. So we're going to give Kyle the credit for the coaching. We're going to give Kyle the credit for bringing in the talent and all of that. But that means Kyle is also going to have to take the blame. And I'm sure he's not going to run away from that. He understands that. That's the business.
But he's not going to run away from it, but he didn't make himself the GM. So it's a little bit murky. I think Niner fans are still like, Kyle does this, and John's responsible for that, and Kyle's good at this, and John stinks at that. No, it's all Kyle. It is all Kyle. What John does is give Kyle what he wants, right? As opposed to Baalke. Baalke was like too smart for his own good. Baalke would be like, hey, Vic, Tank Carradine is going to be the next Justin Smith in your system. And Vic would be like, no, he won't. No, he won't. He's 275 pounds, Trent. How could he be the next Justin Smith? And Trent's like, first of all, Vic, you don't know what you're talking about. Second of all, let's put 20 pounds on him. So he would force these guys on his coaches. But John doesn't do that,
Vic,
which is good.
You're right. He's not the next Justin Smith. But let's just drop him another 20 pounds and he might be the next Aldon Smith.
No, Trent. Vic tried to tell you. And if the coach is not really interested in coaching the player, he's not going to develop.
Right.
Period.
That was the whole point of hiring these two guys, right? Jed wanted two guys with the same vision who were going to have a relationship where they were going to go together in the same way and try to build this team the same way. Well, John Lynch was in broadcasting, and he's a really smart guy. He knows a lot, but he's not – his vision of building a team is one that coincides with what Kyle's vision is. And he's going to be a guy that what John Lynch's job, and the way I have understood just by observing from afar, it's his job to ensure that Kyle stays happy with everything that's going on, and he's getting the right kind of things that he wants. But Kyle is the guy with the wants. I don't think John Lynch is saying, no, I want this guy. Well, no, Kyle says he wants a wide receiver like Brandon Aiyuk, and John, as the GM, makes that kind of thing happen.
That's right. That's right. Real quick, Dylan Respects says trade back, draft O-line, take Mitch or Cam, money. That's pretty much, I think, what I would do. But the thing is, when I don't know the draft that well, I'm just starting to get in the mock drafts because the Niners season's essentially over. What I see is an offensive tackle from Oregon who's everyone projects to be the 3rd, 4th, 5th pick in the draft. And then I don't see any tackles after that in round 1.
Yeah, and, you can take an offensive lineman out of need, but how many of those guys really work out? Like Philly took Andre Dillard late. He hasn't really been that. Like, last year was the year because everybody said all 4 of those guys were going to be studs. And,
can't miss.
Until before yesterday, after the firing of Mark Colombo, he hadn't given up the pressure. And then yesterday, Hassan Reddick kind of worked him. But prior to yesterday, he was playing really well since Mark Colombo.
Yeah, he's a rookie.
Fired.
Yeah.
Right. And Jedrick Wills has been an absolute stud. Wirfs has been very good, and he should be in the offensive player, rookie of the year conversation. And Bekai Becton is a very big positive for the Jets. Last year was the draft for the offensive linemen. And the way the offensive linemen are coming out of college, you're not just going to have Jonathan Ogden and
they're rare. They're rare. That's why I can't believe they passed on it last year. I can't believe, but that's last year.
Right. I remember 2 great drafts where people said, man, the offensive line is serious. And besides 2018, everyone said Big Q and nobody else. But it was 2016, DeForest Buckner's draft. Everybody swore up and down that Ronnie Stanley and Larry Tunsil were going to be.
Hey, Stanley was good. Stanley is good, and Tunsil's pretty good too.
Tunsil's excellent. They're both top 5 left tackles.
The way I look at it is Ronnie Stanley and Quentin Nelson got Mike McGlinchey drafted into the 1st round. Like, if those 2 guys hadn't existed, because when you look at Mike McGlinchey, you're like, whoa, dang, look at him, man. I mean, playing the same position that Ronnie Stanley played at the same spot. That's like, no, man, no.
Yeah, but
that happens a little bit in the NFL.
But besides that, 2017, do you remember? And then 2019, there was Jonah Williams, but people weren't like going gaga that Jonah Williams was going to be a star. Like,
true.
A 1st-round type offensive lineman, but people weren't even sure if he could play tackle in the NFL. So
what team is he on?
He's on Cincinnati.
Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Is he the one that got Joe Burrow hurt?
No.
Okay.
Maybe. I No,
It
but
might have been, right?
they were like street guys to protect Joe.
Okay, okay. We got one more question from Anthony, and then we'll get to our final topic. Anthony says, is it better to build O-line from the inside out or from the outside in? Good question, Anthony. What do you think, Vish?
Outside in.
No question.
You can protect your guards. There's a reason people don't draft guards besides Big Q in the first round. It's a luxury pick. And in the Niners' case, they value center more than other teams. That's why Kyle paid Alex Mack. That's why he paid Weston Richburg and stuff. But if you have two elite tackles, like look at the New Orleans Saints. You have Ryan Ramczyk and Terran Armstead, two guys that can block most pass rushers just out on an island, and you're not going to have a problem. I mean, the Colts kind of have it with Costanzo and Braden Smith. The Packers really had it with David Bakhtiari and Brian Bulaga, and look what the Niners defense still did to them. So
the Niners had it with Harbaugh.
Joe Staley. And Big Anthony Davis wasn't the best, but he was very good.
He was great for their run game, and as soon as his career fell apart in 2014, that team fell apart. It's really essential to have two quality tackles, and to me, the fact that the Niners didn't have that this year is a big reason that their luck didn't go their way. If Mike McGlinchey had been able to be the guy that they drafted him to be, this offense might have been pretty good, even without their starting quarterback. But he's a freaking liability, and you got it. So now, yeah, they'd like a new right guard. A new center would be great, but they got to go to right tackle first. And they talk about, well, we put him at right tackle because there's really no difference between left tackle and right tackle. Now, that was the excuse for not moving to left tackle. There's some truth to that. On the right side, you got to block Von Miller. You got to block a lot of Montez Sweat. Good players. And you can't do it. Yeah, dude. So, and often by yourself, because a lot of these offenses are all about putting 5 eligibles into the pattern, and they don't want to leave a tight end there to help you, Mike McGlinchey. They want to get their players out into the pattern. So,
I mean, how many big third downs? Like the Rams game third down. Guess where George Kittle was on those 2 3rd and 16s? Nobody will remember because they converted them.
In the backfield. In the backfield. And same thing in the Super Bowl.
So he's your best player on your offense, and you're running that route with Kendrick Bourne, Emmanuel Sanders, and Deebo. So yeah, there's something to this.
Yes. And the thing about McGlinchey is like maybe he regressed this year, or maybe it's just that the Niners were playing from behind a lot and in more obvious passing situations, and he just got picked on.
Because we talked about this on the phone this morning, like. The thing with McGlinchey is that he's still a great run blocker, and two, his still here comment to an extent is valid, right? Like, for the most part, he's kind of solid throughout the game, but here's where it gets exacerbated, and Grant pointed this out, and this is why he's right about this. It's because he gets, when, like, this Philly game with CJ at quarterback, yesterday with Nick and stuff, when the Niners quarterbacks have to drop back and it becomes obvious drop back, that's when he really gets exposed, and that's where those are the 5 still here plays. But the problem is that when you have a right tackle who can't really pass protect in the drop back pass game, and you get into game situations where you have to drop back and pass, it's a recipe for disaster.
How do you come from behind? I mean, if you're down 2 scores with 8 minutes left, you're not running the ball. You're just passing in no huddle offense as much as you can. And McGlinchey can't play that kind of football. The Niners didn't have to do that last year. They were in close games or they were winning. And so I guess his weaknesses weren't exposed. But how often are you going to have the ideal situation in football? You can't have a right tackle who's good when everything's going well and you're winning. You need a guy who can actually do what I'm sorry, Mike. I'm going to really get you this week, Mike. I hope it's coming. And I'm not going to put music behind it. It's not going to be funny. I'm going to show your 10 worst plays from this past game, and I'm going to explain to everyone what you're doing wrong. And then I'm going to ask at the end if you still want to play football, because I don't know watching you. I'm not saying you don't. I'm not saying you do. I want to know. And I'm going to show everyone how you just don't fight back. You don't fight back. Stand up for yourself, Mike. They're pushing you around. Don't let them bully you like that.
They spent a top 10 pick on him. If they didn't spend a top 10 pick on him, we wouldn't really be hammering him.
Nobody was just in school.
Blake Tomlinson and Justin, not Justin School, Colton McKivitz and Daniel Brunskill, and all those guys have had moments that are equally bad, but you're a captain of this team. They spent a top 10 pick on you. That's why you're held to a different standard from those guys.
Yep, that's right. All right, let's get to our final question that I've been meaning to get to. Hold on. That ain't it. Okay, here we go. Aiyuk. So we agree that this guy is now off the charts. He's looking terrific. Hell of a player. Hell of a player. I tweeted last night that he's an elite wide receiver right now. To me, I'm looking at Terry McLaurin, who I have the utmost respect for, and I'm seeing Aiyuk can do that stuff plus a little bit more. He's got this punt returning ability that McLaurin doesn't have. I love him. Was he the right pick for the 49ers?
It's actually not that crazy, because how many rookie wide receivers have you ever seen carry an entire offense? That's what he's doing. He carries his entire offense up and down the field. He is unbelievable. I tweeted yesterday that he's the best thing about this Niners season. Deebo Samuel is my favorite player in the NFL. Brandon Aiyuk.
And we've been arguing about this all year. You can see where I'm coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Brandon Aiyuk is threatening that. I like him. He's my favorite player. He's outstanding. I think he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL next year, no doubt about it. Even if
he isn't already.
Yeah.
In
the conversation. If he we ranked rookie wide receivers yesterday on my show. Blake and I did, and I had Aiyuk at 3 with CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson at 2 and 1. Well, now I feel like an idiot just after watching yesterday, and I think the world of both CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. But Brandon Aiyuk might be the best of them. They're all phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't know. Justin Jefferson's really good too. Yeah, they're all phenomenal.
So my thing is, but the problem is that they gave up 2 picks on a team that still has holes to get him. That's where I push back, and I'm like, is he the right pick? Because what if you stayed put? Maybe you missed out on Aiyuk. Is T. Higgins and 2 players? Okay, maybe T. Higgins doesn't fit this offense as much, but I don't know. I thought T. Higgins would be kind of like.
Also, are you what I said at the time, and we didn't know each other at the time, but what I said is I thoroughly believe the Niners didn't have to trade up for Aiyuk. I think he would have been there had they stayed there. And I think what they were saying was, well, Green Bay would have taken him. I think they were expecting Green Bay to take a wide. I think the whole world was expecting Green Bay to take a wide receiver. And when they took Jordan Love, people were like, "What? Yeah. What?" So I think he would have been there. I think he would have been there.
Maybe. I don't know that for sure. But that's plausible. But that when you trade up for a guy and it's a wide receiver, like when you trade up for a quarterback, right? He can cover up weaknesses. At the end of the day, Brandon Aiyuk plays a dependent position, and that's where.
They don't have the protection or the quarterback to get him the ball consistently. If you put him on Buffalo, my goodness. But here,
he's going to be a superstar. I have no doubts about that. He's excellent, but was he worth the 49ers basically getting 2 other players in that draft, with one of them being Colton McKivitz and one of them being Juwan Jennings, who knows if he's actually going to even have a career for this team. So that's where the conversation really starts, because while he's excellent, the guys picked after him, it's not like they're that big slouches, So it's
let's take it back to Green Bay. Green Bay would be better right now with Brandon Aiyuk. No question about it.
No doubt.
Did they make the wrong decision taking Jordan Love?
Yeah.
You think they made the wrong decision?
If you're asking me today, I'll say yeah. But
if Jordan Love ends up being the heir apparent and he ends up being a Pro Bowl quarterback, you can't knock it.
Well, then we'll do Mondays with Vish 4 years from now, and I'll be like, yeah, dude, they were absolutely right for taking Jordan Love. Yeah.
All I'm saying is it's way harder to find the quarterback than the wide receiver. We see that. There are good wide receivers at the end of – you can find Pro Bowl wide receivers in round 3. McLaurin was. I mean, dude in Pittsburgh this year, you can really find quarterbacks, though, after the 10th pick, it's like good luck. Good luck. So I understand why Green Bay was like, you know what? We're not going to get another opportunity to get a guy like Jordan Love anytime soon. Let's give it a shot. Even though we're passing on a stud wide receiver, because a wide receiver isn't going to sink our season. We'll be fine. It was an interesting choice, and it's hard. Yeah, no. It's hard to say they're definitely wrong.
You can't say it's the wrong choice just because of how good he is, but you can ask that question.
It's interesting. Yeah.
It's something you can talk about. It's not
because they got ridiculed at the time. They were like, "What are they thinking?" It's like, well, I mean, they just got a guy. Like, to me, there's not much of a difference between Trey Lance and Jordan Love. Trey Lance could go 10th in this draft. Jordan Love went 27th 6th. So to get a guy with those kind of tools that late, I can understand it. It's rare.
Yeah,
It's
and
rare.
going back to Aiyuk, right? We can't. There's no way of saying it's the wrong pick. Absolutely not.
No,
He's
no.
way too good. He's outstanding.
Easily.
He's going to be a superstar. There's no. All of those things are true, but at the same time, man, like looking at all the holes that could be in this roster, like it's not just as simple as, hey, let's just get the quarterback better and come back, because they have so many unknowns in so many different positions, right? And we have to see how they handle those things before we and we have to reassess this 49ers this offseason, see how they handle all these free agents and all of that before we immediately just book them as a 2021-22 Super Bowl team. So with all of that, that's where you can say, well, maybe getting 2 extra players who could fill in different spots could have been a better move. Maybe, I don't know, because they got a superstar, and that's the bottom line.
Bottom line, real quick before you go, and he does have to go. Kevin Wang says, can you please ask McGlinchey why he sucks in a press conference? I would, in different words, but they don't let him go to press. He doesn't talk anymore.
That's good, though. I think they
he's not allowed to talk anymore. Yeah. Why can't we drive in Book out of Notre Dame late and fix the O-line first? Is there something I'm missing? He's 30-3. Please give me your thoughts. Dude, I don't really know Ian Book very much. What do you think of Ian Book?
I haven't watched him a lot, but just throw out the 30-3. AJ McCarron, did he lose a game in college?
Okay. So Ian Book is a mobile quarterback in a good program, is what I'm gathering here.
Yeah.
So that's why people like him, because he wins.
I'll watch him.
I'll watch him.
Now I'll watch him, and maybe next week we can do. If the Dallas game is like this one, I don't want to keep beating it to death, because I don't like talking about the Niners when they lose. So because I'm a fan first, right? So we can then do a college quarterback show next week. I'll watch them all this week.
Sure. And what I want as a prep for that show, what I've heard from a source that I trust is the day 2 mobile quarterback dual threat project who has the most intrigue is the kid who was at Wake Forest for a few years and Trent transferred to Georgia and opted out. So I don't know. I mean, I watch him on YouTube and it's a little rough. Like his game against Clemson is like, oh God. But people I trust say, you know what? He's a hell of an athlete. There's a reason Georgia wanted him. He'll be available on day 2. Someone to watch. I think he's going to go to the Senior Bowl too. So we'll see what he does.
And then I've heard the Cincinnati guy has an absolute cannon for an arm. Like, makes every kind of throw. So I'll take a look.
Okay. Cincinnati guy too. All right. You got to go now, though. Thank you so much for giving me an hour of 20 minutes.
More questions.
You're good? You're good? All right. Yeah. Sure. Well, absolutely.
215 is my for sure stop. 215 on
okay. 215 is hard stop. Hard stop. If you guys didn't know, Vish is a extremely good drummer. Vish does everything. He doesn't have – he's like – if he does something, he's an expert at it, which I respect. That's what my brother's like. Jermaine says happy birthday. If you got any more questions, Vish has 2 minutes left with us. Thanks, Rebel. LSU sucks this year. Yeah, Horatio. So does UCLA. Oh, Chip Kelly. Can we talk about how much I hate Chip Kelly for a second? No, we don't have to talk about
it. Ooh, somebody brought up Kadarius Toney.
Who's that?
That's the guy I brought up in the case that, when we talked about Deebo Samuel in the beginning.
Ah.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney from Florida Gator. Oh, yeah, I've seen him. All those Florida receivers are so good.
Kadarius Toney, you know who he looks like? He looks like Deebo Samuel. He reminds me of DJ Moore coming out of Maryland. That's who he reminds me of. He is something special, but I think Niners can't draft another wide receiver. There's been way too much investment in that position between Hurd, Pettis, Deebo, Aiyuk. So there's a lot of investment.
There's so many. If they do that instead of an offensive lineman or a cornerback, I'm just going to lose it.
2, just watching the impact that Deebo's having on teams, how good DJ Moore is, I would take that guy in the top 15.
In the top what?
15.
Ooh, dang. See, that's the thing with Trask. He's got this guy who should go in the top 15. And then to me, Pitts is even better.
Yeah.
Pitts is even better, dude. That guy is like, he moves like Shannon Sharp, but he's 6'6". He is going to be outrageously good. Kyle Pitts.
Reminds me of Waller.
Ooh. Yes. But faster.
Yeah.
Faster. Yes.
He's something special. But yeah, this guy, because if you get this guy changes your entire offense from a scheme, just a total scheme perspective. All you have to do is add what everybody wants in their offense, right? Just add motion. Just throw motion into an offense, and now your offense is analytically sound. So just throw it in there, even though you might not have a reason to do your motion. Well, this guy gives you a reason to motion.
Real quick, someone said, Grant, would you say that they were competitively tanking these last couple of games? No. You think Nick Mullins fumbled on purpose? You think Nick Mullins threw that pick six on purpose? No.
Here's the thing with tanking. I think I'm going to just say it before I go. This is the most important thing. Players and coaches can't tank. The NFL is a day-to-day job evaluation.
Yes.
Kyle Shanahan, even though he has a 6-year extension, if he tanks this season, Jed might say, no, you tanked. I'm done with you. And fire him on the spot. Right. And he could eat the contract because Jed's that rich. Owners are that rich. So they can eat your contract.
Plus, Robert Saleh hasn't established himself yet. He still needs. He's working for a job. A lot of these guys are going to be free agents next year. They're working for their next contract. No.
Same with Nick Mullins.
His
job, him even having a job in the NFL isn't a certainty every year. He's got to prove it every chance he gets.
Yes. So good question. I think it is something in basketball because it's not really it's a contact sport, but it's not a collision sport. Football is a collision sport, and there's 16 games, and they just can't. Now, maybe the Jets front office have set it up in such a way that they're trying to lose, but it's not happening here.
Nah, I don't even look at it with that because football isn't okay. LeBron James is coming in the draft this year. If we get LeBron, he's just going to take our team and take us to the finals. That's basketball.
Right, because he's one of 5. In football, you're one of 25.
Yeah, and the other thing is that nobody knows. Still, with the sure things, nobody knows if they're going to be great. The surest of things, nobody knows. But with basketball, you can, at worst case scenario, say Ben Simmons, if we tank for him, he's going to be an all-star player, right? You can't say that.
He can't shoot well.
But he does everything else great. Yeah. All right.
I still think they mess up the first pick in the draft every year. But anyway, we're not talking about basketball. Anyway.
Yeah.
They always take the dude who can't shoot first. It's like, you got to shoot in the NBA. But I don't know. I just watch the Warriors a lot. I'm just surprised. People still trying to. Anyway. Sorry. No, they're not tanking. Good call. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to send you the video right now, right?
For sure. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Thank you for sticking around and stuff. It was awesome.
Make sure you subscribe to Vish's YouTube channel. The link is in the description.
Happy birthday, Kyle Shanahan.
Happy birthday, Vish.
Thank you.